Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I'm the Festival Director of Out on Film. This is our 34th year representing stories for, by, and about our community and its allies. This is our first year as a hybrid festival. We have a very limited schedule in theater. We also have a pretty robust schedule of films, virtual as well. One of the films I love so much this year is Swan Song. I'm very honored to have the director of the film today, Todd Stephens. Thanks so much.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm assuming most of you have seen this film already, but just in case you haven't, I'm going to read a brief description and then we're going to jump into a Q&A because I've got some questions. One of the year's most beloved and acclaimed films is director Todd Stephens' Swan Song. In it, Pat Pitsenbarger, who was once Sandusky, Ohio's leading hairdresser, was also a shining light of the gay community. Now living in a nursing home, Pat is informed that the town's society leader, a former customer, has requested his services for her funeral. Escaping the nursing home with only his flashy jewelry, he heads to town on foot with some stops along the way. Pat is played by the fabulous Udo Kier. Todd is obviously the director of Edge of 17, Gypsy 83, and another gay movie. And congratulations on all the success you've had this year with Swan Song.
Thank you so much. It's been a fun ride. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us just a little bit about how the film came up.
I always was, the film is based on, well, Pat is based on a real person, as you probably know.
Yes.
And I remember when I was a little boy, a little sort of pre-queer boy, like riding my bike around downtown, I would see this very flamboyant man occasionally. And, I was like, wow, who is that? Because he looks so different than everybody else in town. And, it's pretty, but the town's evolved a lot, but back then it was pretty conservative. And, so, I just always felt a kinship with Pat. And when I originally wrote this in Edge of 17, but when I went into the gay bar for the first time when I was 17, the Universal Fruit and Nut Company, Pat was there, sparkling away on the dance floor. And I think that became just a lifelong obsession. I never really knew him very well. Our paths just crossed in life, but he always, it was like kind of like my muse, basically.
Okay. Did you ever officially meet him?
I did. Yeah, I did. But we weren't like close friends. I knew his lover, David, more.
Okay.
And I originally wrote a Mr. Pat character in Edge of 17 that was sort of like my character's mentor, but we literally could not find an actor who we felt could do the part justice. It's a tough character to play and do it well. So we ended up giving all of Mr. Pat scenes to Leah Delaria in that film, which is funny, and that worked out well, but it broke my heart a bit, like in the sense that I didn't get to, I was really excited to kind of introduce Pat to the world 20 years ago or whatever it was. But I always knew, since that didn't work out, that he would just get his own film, so it all worked out all right.
So what made Udo perfect for the part?
It was really important for me for this film to have all the queer parts played by queer actors, for one thing.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about that as a rule, but it's an interesting conversation. But in this film, I just felt it was important. I wanted Pat, I wanted the actor who played Pat to have lived through AIDS and had lost people and been through the club world. And, so that was part of it. But the other part of it was just like, Udo just has a depth and a mystery and a gravitas to him that was really perfect. And I was a little, reluctant at first to cast somebody who, the real Mr. Pat was not from Germany. And, and Udo has always, mostly played villains and stuff. But when I met him, I went to Palm Springs to meet him, and it was, I think, when he introduced me to his dog named Liza Minnelli, that that I was like, okay, girl, you're cast, you know. So that sort of did it.
It's so funny because I did not know this story about Pat before I started reading it. I just assumed that you wrote this for Udo because it just seems like such a perfect fit. I mean, and he's been around for a while. He's done lots of movies, lots of varied roles, and you know, I can't remember him being front and center in the movie, but he is just so utterly perfect in this film.
Yeah, I know. I actually didn't write it for him originally, but I can't imagine anybody else having pulled it off like he did. I mean,
Sure.
you know, because you don't want to be like over. It's a flamboyant character, but you don't want it to be like overdoing it and you know, putting on that gay act kind of thing. Which that's the thing that just I'm sick of. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just wanted to. We kept saying, "Don't act, like just be real," and so that was kind of our mantra. You know.
I read an interview that you said this is a love letter to flaming florists and hairdressers.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was the people like, you know, the small town queens who didn't really have the option to hide because they were kind of who they were, you know, that changed the world and that paved the way and that we stand on their shoulders. And so, yeah, you know, I really, those are my heroes, you know?
Sure. So when Udo came on board, I mean, was the character and the script like completely set, or did you work on it a little bit I mean, how did was the script set, or did you work on the character any more at all?
I did work on it more. Interestingly enough, like I removed dialogue because I knew that Udo could tell so much of a story just with his expressions and his eyes. So I mean, the real Mr. Pat was, even though he was flamboyant, he was always kind of like a queen of few words, you know? And so in that spirit with Udo cast, like I just tried to strip back the dialogue as much as I could. And there, you know, a lot of the magical elements, the sort of magical realism of like, is he really, you know, is Eunice real, or is David that really there, whatever. A lot of that sort of like evolved after Udo came on board. It just got a bit more haunted, I think I would say, you know.
Exactly. You know, obviously there is some humor in the movie. There's some element of camp in the movie, but you know, there's some pathos, and there's just so much dimension in the with some of the places he goes. You know, was it always intention to sort of marry all those together?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I like doing, you know, and what I tried to do with especially the films in this trilogy of movies about my hometown is kind of like, you know, get people to laugh and cry, you know, sometimes at the same time. That's the ultimate goal.
Exactly. So you did a Kickstarter campaign for this film, correct?
Yeah, we did. I mean, it was really hard film to get financed. And yeah, and Udo actually participated in the Kickstarter. So that's how the film, you know, really got launched. And I, you know, we had known each other for like a year before we shot the film, which is another real amazing thing, that we really trusted each other and had become friends, you know. And so, you know, we talk still almost every day on the phone, and
Nice.
he's just my buddy, you know.
Nice. I saw this film real early in the year. This was long before Magnolia came over. But can you sort of describe what happened when Magnolia acquired this film and just and got it out there everywhere? I mean, Swan Song was everywhere from it. What
I
was it like
know.
to have this small film and looking for a distributor and have them come aboard and just get it out to the world?
Yeah, I mean, they're the most amazing distributor I've worked with. I mean, they really involve the filmmaker and all the decisions. And a lot of the folks there aren't queer, but they were really, one part of the story that really fascinated them, which is that because I think they didn't know it was happening, was how in many ways small town queer America, you know, the bar scene and stuff like that is almost becoming extinct. And they had no idea that was going on, that like gay culture was kind of melting back into society. And that really was fascinating to them. But Yeah, they really, hired all the great bunch of great publicists and really got the word out there. The film got into South by Southwest, and that's where they came on board. So it's been amazing working with them.
Did you have any perceptions about who Udo was as a person before that meeting where he called his dog Liza Minnelli?
Only from what I had seen in the movies. So I was probably maybe like slightly concerned that he was going to kill me or something. No, I'm just kidding. No, I talked to people that knew him, and they said he was he's just not at all like those villains and killers and stuff. He's just a total sweetheart, And so I kind of had a feeling, and we had talked on the phone a few times. So yeah.
Well, obviously Udo is front and center in this film, but it's very much an ensemble piece. Can you talk first of all about Linda Evans?
Yeah, Linda. Yeah, I mean, I had, I wanted somebody that had gravitas for the part, even though it was a small role. And Eve Battaglia, my casting director, came up with that idea as we were brainstorming, and I immediately thought about the Rock Hudson thing, from when I was younger, and where when Linda was on Dynasty still, there was like an episode that Rock Hudson guest starred in, and right when that aired, it sort of came out that he had AIDS, and this was I think in 1985. It was a big controversy. I'm sure a lot of you remember, but some of you maybe don't. But Linda was always, even back then, a real ally and of our community, and defended her friend and educated that you don't get AIDS from kissing somebody and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that, and there, we got her the script, and it really touched her and immediately connected on like a deep level with her. And she's just I really feel like she really, there was no vanity. She's like, she allowed us to make her look dead and put that camera like way up in her face. And she just whatever the story wanted, and I think it's a real gutsy performance.
Can you talk briefly about Michael Urie and Jennifer Coolidge as well?
Yeah, I mean, again, like the character of Dustin, I mean, that's kind of like me speaking through the film, like saying, even though I never really knew you, I want you to know you changed my life. That the role model that people like Pat provided, they didn't even maybe realize, but Michael was my first choice. I saw him on Broadway in a revival of Torch Song, and yeah. And I was like, that's Dustin, so he's such a sweetheart, such a lovely guy. And Coolidge, oh my God, I've been obsessed with her since I first laid eyes on her. I think in American Pie, I'm just like so geeked about her. And it's like, so she was my first choice as well, but like we couldn't get through the force field of her like team, because it's a low budget movie, and a lot of times agents and managers don't pay attention if it's like not a big money offer. But when we finally got through to her, she wanted to do it right away. And actually she wanted to play the part that my friend Stephanie played in the thrift store, originally, because Jennifer said she had never really played a villain before. And she was kind of like a little nervous about it, but I kind of twisted her arm, and I'm very proud of what she did in the film. It's like, it's just different shades that, and now we're just seeing more and more from her. And with White Lotus, it's like, she's just such a great actor and can do so many things. So exactly. That was a dream, working with her. Dream come true for a geeked out gay boy.
So last year was a tough year. A lot of entertainment a lot of everything was virtual, and there wasn't a lot that people were allowed to get out and do. What was it like finally being able to get out and see this film with an audience this year?
It was great. I didn't even know if it was ever going to happen, like in a way. And it was amazing. I mean, we first saw it at this festival called Oak Cliff in Dallas, which was mostly like, it wasn't a queer festival. It was, but it was like a lot of younger people and it really, I was surprised that it really touched them, but I think the best screening we've had so far was in Palm Springs, which is just the perfect audience for the film. And I don't know, it really seems to I think a lot of us gay folks just kind of appreciate that, it's almost like a documentation of like a world that's changing, and almost like a time gone by to some extent. I think a lot of people had a Mr. Pat in their life, or they were a Mr. Pat, and just really seem to be touched by it, and relate to losing. A lot of people obviously relate to, having half of your address book like crossed out from people you lost to AIDS, and so yeah, it's been amazing. Like it just, a film doesn't seem like it's done until you screen it with people,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Swan Song's obviously been big for you this year, but you also had this is also the anniversary of another gay movie.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
The 20th anniversary?
15.
15.
15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking, okay, yeah. So I remember I was working at the Landmark Midtown Arts Cinema 15 years ago, and Louis Tice from little sweet Louis, he said, I have a movie you have to see, because it was going to come out that summer and I was going to promote it. And he sent it to me, and I was real busy. I watched like 15 minutes. Then I finally got back, and I just laughed my ass off at that movie.
Yeah.
And got played at the Midtown Arts Cinema for I think 7 or 8 weeks that summer. Your producers came down for that. And then sequel for that, I think you came down for the sequel.
I did. Yes, I did. Yeah.
But I mean, does it feel like it's been 15 years since that film?
Not really. I mean, not really. It just and it's funny because I just saw, when I was in LA, I got together with the Michael and Jonah and the original gang, and it's like, no, I mean, the amazing thing is like just being around them, it just feels like it literally was yesterday we made it, although it's almost a generation ago, but I love the movie, that movie really pressed buttons, and there were people that I'm sure some of you hate it. There's people that like hated it and people that loved it, but I just felt at the time that I wanted to be able to laugh at ourselves, and if we can have a stupid gross out sex comedy, if straight people can have it, why can't queer people? And kind of wanted to make the film that I would have liked to have seen as like a 15-year-old.
Exactly.
But within that, it's like just kind of the bigger message was just like finally feeling like we had come to the point where we could like laugh at ourselves. And it was really that I had never had more fun making a film than that. It was crazy,
I was wondering myself, it was definitely politically incorrect, but could a film like that be made these days?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think I don't know.
No, I just kind of miss those days where a film like that could be made, because these days I don't think there's a chance they could ever be made or be in a theater again. Maybe a streamer, but yeah, that was a very courageous movie, and I love it and watch it a lot. But so you've had a great year. Have you had time to sort of unwind a little bit after all the touring and success of the film?
Yeah. I'm starting to work on my trying to figure out what I'm going to do next, and all that. But we're still just came back from Mexico and going to Zurich next weekend. So there's still a little bit of like international festival stuff that's going on. But for the most part, yeah, it's like back to the computer here, and like now, that flashing cursor on the screen. It's like, now what? So
during COVID, did you largely stay at home, or were you able to get out much?
I did. I'm a film professor. So I live in New York City, but have a place here in the country as well. But I did my teaching pretty much on Zoom and was pretty cooped up. But now we're back in class, and you know, it's weird to teach in a mask, but we're all just we do what we got to do, and so yeah, it's good to be getting back out in the world again. That's for sure.
Great. You mentioned the future. Do you have anything definitively lined up, or is it just a matter of more, whatever?
I do. Well, I don't, not definitively, but I'm developing a concept for a TV show called Flamingos, which is about a gay retirement home in Florida.
Okay.
So that's like one thing, and I've always wanted to make a film about Mae West, who's sort of my all-time icon. And, in the 20s, before she became a star, she got arrested for putting on a show on Broadway called The Drag, and that she wrote and produced. And so I've always wanted to tell that story. So those are the main things I'm working on.
Nice. The film is Swan Song. Todd Stephens is the director. Todd, thank you so very much for this amazing film, and congratulations on success. And thanks for talking to us today.
Thanks. I love Atlanta, so I'm there in spirit, and hope to see you next time.
We'll get you down here very soon.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay.